Welcome back, everyone. So, my people, more reactions about what happened yesterday at the Senate. How the Senate rejected a bill to honor late NEC chairman Professor Humphrey Nwosu, and how Southeast senators protested and also angrily walked out from the Senate. It was a show of shame, and the world can now see what Igbos have been saying and complaining about how they have been marginalized in Nigeria. So if you look at those people that spoke against the late Professor Humphrey Nwosu, you can see the anger, you can see the hatred, you can see the bias in them towards not only just late Professor Humphrey Nwosu, but to Igbos. And in this video, Dr. Abati exposed Oshiomhole, who said that late Professor Humphrey Nwosu did not even make mention of who won that particular election, that he was not brave enough to announce or declare the winner, that he did not confess or tell Nigerians that Abiola won that particular election. While I have seen like several interviews granted by late Professor Humphrey Nwosu, where he said it like many times that Abiola won that particular election. So this man even challenged Abati as well as Babangida in the court in order to prove to Nigerians that yes, Abiola won that particular election. And you guys know very well how military regime is. This man risked his life, he stood his ground to make sure that that particular election took place. But today, they are calling him coward, saying that he doesn't deserve any honor. My people, one that they say shall never end. Even some people are even blaming, like some senators in the Senate are blaming the late Professor Humphrey Nwosu, that he was the reason they lost their loved ones. Like these people leave Abacha, they leave Babangida, and recently Babangida came out to confess that yes, that Abiola won that particular election. So these people honored Abiola, honored Abacha, and now they are complaining that Professor Humphrey Nwosu was the reason or the cause why they lost their loved ones. My people, like, how do we even explain this? Like, is this thing supposed to be the topic of discussion in the Senate? This is what Nigeria is supposed to do, like willingly, to honor this man. But rather, some are using this opportunity to change the history in order to paint late Humphrey Nwosu a bad man, the hero of June 12th election. My people, Nigeria will never stop surprising us. Let's just listen and hear what Dr. Abati as well as Ayo have to say concerning this matter. Please don't forget to leave your thought in the comment section. Share the video and give it a like. Thank you so much for doing so.
Professor Nwosu and President Babangida fooled 18 million Nigerians that voted. Nwosu is not on record before his death as admitting that before I die, let me confess that there was a winner.
Well, Adamso Oshiomhole here saying that the late Humphrey Nwosu was not ready to die for Nigeria, and therefore, he doesn't consider him a hero. Well, the senators at that time, that walked out, the senators, Southeast senators, had urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that he immortalizes who we described yesterday on this table, Ayo, as the hero of democracy. But before I come to you guys, I'd like to play this clip. Here is late Professor Nwosu in this viral video where he mentioned several names of those he said were involved in the schemes that led to the annulment of the June 12th election. Let's take a look.
There was someone at the level of the National Defense, Security and Defense Council,
headed by Babangida.
Babangida and Abacha was prominent. I reported, well, sir, the law that allowed us to conclude this election made no provision for this technical body, for your committee. You should allow us to conclude the result with that of Taraba and announce it, or you call in Abiola and negotiate with him. He shouted on me, who are you to tell us what to do? You are not a member of National Defense and Security Council. You are not. The council and the court decided you should not conduct the election. You went ahead and conducted the election, that it was illegal. You will recall, throughout Abacha's regime, his Minister for Information regarded the election as illegal.
There he is. They're saying at that time, the administration had regarded that election as illegal throughout the tenure of Abacha at the time as well. I mean, Eina Abaribe has charged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to actually do the right thing by this man, who will be buried, I believe, on Saturday this weekend in Anambra State. And, you know, he said that this man led the freest and fairest election in Nigeria's history, and he's wondering why such a man has not been recognized by the federal government of Nigeria. Dr. Abati, over to you.
Okay, we discussed this subject yesterday,
yes.
But I think it's come up afresh because Senator Enyinaya Abaribe now went back and represented, you know, that motion. Now, there were 15 senators, all the senators from the Southeast, also supported by Senator Abamoro, Senator Adamu Aliero, Senator Yahaya Abdullahi, both from Kebbi now, and Senator Ned Nwoko, and then, of course, there was a voice vote. At that voice vote, of course, it was also, we were also told that the thing was shouted down, upon which the lawmakers, you know, worked out to have a press conference. Now, this is why we're saying there should be e-voting, so that we will know who voted what. All these, they are magical voice votes that the presiding officer can just decide. We don't know whether they even conduct a hearing test, you know, for some of these people who conduct government meetings. But in Parliament, if, you know, there is proper e-voting, we will have definite outcome. That's number one. Number two, some of the respondents said, you know, on the floor of the Senate. Let me start with Senator Adams Oshiomhole. Senator Adams Oshiomhole was saying that at no time did Professor Humphrey Nwosu declare that Abiola actually won that election. You've shown the video, you know, which showed his mind at that time. Now, in the book, I mentioned his book yesterday, Laying the Foundation, my personal account of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. That book was published in 2008, 474 pages, and I believe it's still in circulation. If Senator Oshiomhole had read that book, he will have found where in that book that Professor Nwosu wrote that, in fact, Abiola won the election decisively. Right. And that his victory was endorsed by both political parties at the collation center before the annulment. That is clear enough. But you know what they say. If you don't want a black man to see anything, just hide it in the book. But that book is still available. Hopefully, you know, some people will go and read it. Now, Senator Adeola was making the point. He said he was not making a partisan statement. He was talking from a personal angle that he lost his brother. Indeed, there were many people that died during that struggle. Nobody could say that it was Professor Humphrey Nwosu that personally carried guns to kill people. It was the military junta. And Babangida, as head of state at that time, I said that it was Abacha-led forces that stopped the announcement of the results. Now, he, the general, he that had the box stopping at his table, he as president and head of state of Nigeria, he ran away from the junta. He could not assert himself. Is it Professor Humphrey Nwosu that was just appointed as the INEC chairman that will now stand up to the Abacha-led forces? No, now, it's not possible. And then finally, what are the prayers of Senator Naya Abaribe and the others? They are saying he laid the foundation of the headquarters of INEC and he has started building it. They say, okay, the minimum that the government can do is to name that INEC headquarters after him. Professor Yakubu Mahmoud, who was speaking at Service of Songs in his honor this same week, also made such a recommendation and said that Nwosu was a trailblazer and many lessons could be learned from the foundation that he has laid. Now he took over from Professor Emeawa. That in itself, can they take it away from him that he laid the foundation of that INEC headquarters that everybody else is using today. Number two, about national honor. Even if they don't want to give him national honor, they should realize, those who are opposing Nwosu and saying he cannot be immortalized, should realize that many of the people who urinated on the legacy of June 12, they have been given national honors, including Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, who was running mate to Abiola. He has been given GCON. And yet he was one of the first to jump ship and abandon the June 12 struggle. Many other persons who have been governors, who have been given national honors, these were people who betrayed June 12. People who betrayed Chief MKO Abiola, they've been given national honors. Even his achievement as a scholar, absolutely, Professor Humphrey Nwosu as a distinguished scholar, even that qualifies him more to be on the national honors list than all the undeserved, funny people that always show up on the national honors list every year. And that's why I think that they have a good case. Those Abaribe team and supporters, they have a good case. Although some people have been saying there was cowardice. There was Newswatch wrote 2 editorials in 1993 abusing Professor Nwosu. Please, how many families will allow their children to go and face bullets because of Nigeria, and you say that is cowardice? He was working under the military.
Under the military. You said it very correctly, Dr. Abati. I'd like your thought, Ayo, about the senator representing Ogun West, Adiola, who said that, Humphrey Nwosu failed to deliver Nigeria's democracy and that his brother died during the whole annulment period.
Adiola on the loss of his brother. And in the same vein, I sympathize with all Nigerians who lost people, lost property, lost dignity, lost time during that period. But the fact that we're even having a conversation around whether or not Professor Nwosu deserves this honor is a big problem in itself. And I'll give reasons for that. The first thing is that we will not be talking about June 12 elections and the repercussions if we didn't have a man who was bold enough and brave enough in the face of military pressure to conduct what is said to be the freest and fairest election, one we've not seen in over 30 years since then. That in itself, he deserves accolades for that. We all know what happened during the Babangida years, during the Abacha years, and it must have taken a lot of courage for him to have done that. It is difficult to work alone when you're standing up for the right things. And so when you have people around you who are not willing to support you, yet you were still able to go ahead to conduct that election, that man ought to be celebrated. On the other side of things, isn't it ironic that the person whom the buck stopped with had a book launch the other day, and people who were even victims of June 12 elections and the repercussions were there to raise 16 billion naira for him, almost change the course of history, rewrite history, and we're talking about him in glowing terms. He wants to build a presidential library, and people are supporting him. That very man deserves accolades, but the one who was bold enough to conduct the first and fairest election does not deserve the honor that we're asking for. It doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
And so that's why, what is the persuasion for Nigerians to do right? What is the persuasion for Nigerians to lay down their lives? And that's why I asked the question, is Nigeria worth dying for? Because when you you risk your life and do all these things, they say no. But when you run away, at least the only thing, just make sure you survive. And the longer you live, the more history will be, will tilt in your favor. Finally, this is why the importance of teaching history in schools is important.
Absolutely.
The Southeast senators, one of the things they must also do, must make sure that history is not rewritten to make Professor Humphrey, let them tell the side of the story so that Nigerian children today and tomorrow will read the real story of what happened during June 12 elections and the real heroes of that time.
Well said, both of you. Well said. Thank you for your submission.